child, Mando. I might let you live.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my Mandalorian Episode 5 video. We'll call this the fan service episode because there were a bunch of fan service drops. So I'll explain all the Easter eggs, and there was a big post-credit scene. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're also doing a merch giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite moment from the episode on the video. Obviously, careful for spoilers from the episode if you have not seen it yet, but we'll do top 10 WTF and Easter eggs. Starting with number 10, the title of the episode, The Gunslinger. More overtly based on Western tropes than samurai tropes, but traditionally a lot of Western films themselves were rip-offs of earlier samurai films, so technically it's kind of the same thing. But most of the way the plot plays out is based on the John Wayne movie The Searchers, one of his final movies, where he has to team up with a rookie on a mission involving a lot of Native Americans, represented by the Sand People in this episode. Based on his knowledge of the Sand People's culture, I'm assuming that he's been to Tatooine before. He also referenced Womp Rats, which are native to Tatooine. You would only know about those if you'd been to Tatooine. But number 9, they open the episode with the Mandalorian on the run from another bounty hunter in what looks like a fighter similar to the Naboo starfighters from Phantom Menace. There were a lot of Phantom Menace Easter eggs in this episode. Also, A New Hope, mostly, and a little bit of Return of the Jedi, just because we are on Tatooine. The bounty hunter throws his own line at him, "I can bring you in warm or bring you in cold," to which the Mandalorian replies, "That's my line," after destroying him. Love Baby Yoda's reaction to the roller coaster of evasive maneuvers that they were doing trying to get away from that fighter, just bouncing all over the place. If you look, he's actually sitting inside a protective case that you would put valuables in inside that seat. He's not sitting in the seat itself, he's sitting in a case that's sitting on the seat. But number 8, welcome back to Tatooine. I hope you like sand. Even before they revealed that it was actually Tatooine, which was later in the episode, you see this giant sand-based planet, you instantly think of Tatooine, and when they land in a very Mos Eisley-looking spaceport, you just start to assume this is probably going to be Tatooine. The actual docking bay that he lands the Razor Crest in is Docking Bay 35. The docking bay from A New Hope that the Millennium Falcon was in was Docking Bay number 94, so it's not the exact same docking bay. But man, they start rolling it out with the fan service from Phantom Menace. So number 7, he walks down the ramp of the ship, and Anakin's repair droids from Phantom Menace just pop up like they've still been around this entire time. Darth Vader has since long become a Force ghost, and this new woman who's now servicing this area has just taken them on as her own. I think the funnier thing, though, is that the minute that they pop up, he shoots them instantly, not only because he doesn't like droids, but it's also them winking from behind the camera, taking a subtle dig at Phantom Menace, like, oh, this is a silly thing, we're shooting it because we don't like silly things that much. You meet the first special guest, it's Amy Sedaris. You probably recognize her from a whole bunch of other things. She's an amazing comedian, but her performance within the episode is tonally a little bit different than what you would expect in Star Wars. You'd expect someone to be that silly in something like the holiday special, but in a traditional Star Wars film, you don't expect that kind of comedy. As he walks into town to search for some work so that he can get some credits to pay for the repairs, she calls him a womp rat. He walks through town past a bunch of stormtrooper helmets that are impaled on spikes. While she's waiting for him to get back, she starts playing a game of sabacc cards with the other droids. When all of a sudden, number 6, Baby Yoda makes the crate dragon noise from A New Hope that Obi-Wan made when he was trying to save Luke from the Sand People. You hear this crazy screeching sound. They think that it's some monster on the ship, but then out walks tiny little Baby Yoda. It's a bit of a misdirect because she's a nice person, she just wants to take care of him, and that's kind of what they do with him for the episode. There wasn't a whole lot of Baby Yoda throughout this episode. Number 5, though, welcome to the Mos Eisley Cantina. There are a couple EV-9D9 droids manning the bar just like the one in Jabba's palace, and you find out that it is pretty much the cantina from A New Hope because a lot of the aliens from the cantina scene in A New Hope are in this scene. I can't remember what kind of alien this ant-looking one is, but there was a praying mantis, which is about as close as we got to insect in the original cantina scene. This is Milos from A New Hope. He's a Sarlin lizard-like species. He was also in the cantina scene from A New Hope, and they have a very Greedo shot first moment when the new character, Toro Calican, asks the Mando for help in tracking down his new mark so that he can gain entry into the Bounty Hunters Guild. And surprise, surprise, it winds up being Ming-Na. Turns out she wasn't actually in the episode for that much. People might complain about that, which I'll totally understand. They kind of sold it as if she was going to be a much bigger character, and she was really only around for a brief cameo. Her name is Fennec Shand. She was an assassin who worked for the Hutt Syndicate, Black Sun, Crimson Dawn, a lot of the other criminal syndicates in the galaxy. They just try to set her up like this really badass hunter-killer that'll take down anybody that comes after her. And her costume kind of looks like an Inquisitor's costume. But he references Out Beyond the Dune Sea, which is a line taken directly from A New Hope. That's where Luke says, "Old Ben Kenobi lives, out beyond the Dune Sea." Not anymore as of the events of this episode because he's a Force ghost. Most of the people, including Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, have already turned into Force ghosts when this is happening. When the Mando goes back to the docking bay to check on Baby Yoda, there's a gonk droid walking behind him. They get 2 Corellian speeder bikes to take off on, but you notice that they take the time for the rookie to get a clear look at Baby Yoda, who he thinks is kind of weird, but he doesn't think too much of it at the time until he meets Ming-Na's character, who tells him what happened to the Mando and why he's wanted by the Bounty Hunters Guild. They stop for a couple Tusken Raiders. They do the exact same bit from A New Hope with Luke Skywalker checking them out with the binoculars and then finding out they're also right behind him. Big surprise jump scare. The Mando explains a little bit about their culture, how they think they're the locals and everyone else is trespassing. Like I said, this is another one of those references to that John Wayne film, The Searchers, with the Native Americans. But he's able to communicate with them using sign language. They're not quite as crazy as they're portrayed during A New Hope or during Attack of the Clones when Anakin Skywalker finds out that they captured his mother and then he slaughters the entire village of them. "I killed all the women and the children too." Since the movies came out, they tried to use the comics, the books, the other animated series to expand on the Sand People's culture and their race to make them seem less like savages and more like an actual culture. But then number 4, the Mandalorian and the Rookie versus Ming-Na's character. She sets a trap for them using another bounty hunter that she just killed who had come for her and his dewback. They find out she's using an MK modified rifle, which is the same kind of rifle that the Senate guards used during the prequels, and you'll learn a little bit more about how his Beskar armor protects him. He says that it's effective at certain ranges, so at this range, yes, it'll totally protect me, whereas the idea is that his previous armor would not have protected him. He's also able to soak another full blast in the chest at much closer range too, so it just gives you an idea for how strong the armor is now. When they're making their move on her in the middle of the night using those flash grenades, it's also a bit of a reference to the Searchers. There's a lot of nighttime scenes that look amazing the way they filmed them during that old Western film. Obviously, they didn't have flash grenades during that movie, but they did have a lot of action scenes that took place at night. When they're able to capture her, she references Navarro as the planet that they were on in the first couple of episodes. We finally learned which one that was. There was a lot of confusion early on because they never told us what it actually was. But Ming-Na's character tries to start turning the Rookie against the Mando by telling him about what happened back on Navarro with Baby Yoda. There's this amazing bounty on him and the child that he took. If you bring them back, you'll be legendary. I can help you do it. She also references a job that she had in Mos Espa that she was heading to, and she'll give him some of the money if he takes her there. Mos Espa is also the city from Phantom Menace where Anakin's pod race took place. But number 3, WTF. The Rookie kills her and then goes back to get the bounty on Baby Yoda. There was a big turn with his character in this moment. He comes across as more diabolical than you would expect, whereas earlier he portrayed himself as a little bit greener behind the ears. "Oh, I'm a rookie. I don't know anything about this. I totally need your help to take her down." The Mando eventually makes it back with the dewback, sees what happens, then goes back to town, and then number 2, the Mandalorian versus the Rookie. They have a bit of a gunslinger standoff moment, but the Mando is able to take him down using another flash grenade, the same trick that they used on Ming-Na's character earlier in the episode. This scene is also a bit of a reference to the way the Searchers movie ended with John Wayne. Once they're able to take him down, she tells the droids to throw the body in Beggar's Canyon, another reference to A New Hope. Then as the Mando and Baby Yoda eventually head off planet, number 1, WTF, the big post-credit scene. So there's this ending scene of someone wearing spurs inspecting Ming-Na's body that just walks up. You don't see them pan up the body, you just hear the spurs and you see the boots. There were a lot of people this morning I saw didn't quite recognize what was going on here, didn't understand what the spurs were supposed to imply. So when he walks up, the reason why they only focus on the spurs is because they're Boba Fett's spurs. The design of his character was originally based on Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name character who, when he walks, his spurs will chink and make that same sound. You can even hear Boba Fett's spurs chink in Empire Strikes Back when he's walking around and nobody else is speaking on top of him. So because this takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, I'm assuming that Boba Fett has since climbed out of the mouth of the Sarlacc, which is something from Legends. If you never read any of the Legends like Tales from Jabba's Palace, there is a lot of Boba Fett stuff that happens during those books. They also cover a lot of Boba Fett post-original trilogy in the Dark Empire comics from Dark Horse, which are also legends and technically not canon anymore. But in those stories, he eventually did escape the mouth of the Sarlacc, repaired his armor a little bit, and then went on to continue pursuing Han Solo to get revenge on him. But because Boba Fett is showing up now inspecting Ming-Na, he probably also has a tracking fob for the kid and is probably hunting for the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda now. So they're hyping up a Mandalorian versus Boba Fett finale, potentially, although I do think that there are bigger villains, like they'll have their gunslinger standoff moment, but because of all the Clint Eastwood Man with No Name references, it sounds like with Boba Fett's appearance now, they're doing a little bit of the good, the bad, and the ugly, with, I guess, Boba Fett playing the Lee Van Cleef bad character, and the Mando obviously being the good Clint Eastwood character. So everybody just post all your reactions in the comments, let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video. I'll probably do a new Boba Fett video in the next couple of days because there's just so much that we have to talk about now that Boba Fett is part of the Mandalorian series. I never expected them to include him in this just because he's been in the Sarlacc chilling this whole time. But while you wait for everything, click here for my new Baby Yoda video and click here for my Mandalorian Episode 4 video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.